Welcome in to another exciting episode of The Scene. I'm your host, Bubba Starts. With me today is singer-songwriter, musician, really good guy, Chris Graves. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Beautiful introduction.
Oh, well, you're a beautiful man. For our audio listeners who don't know, I encourage you to get on this man's Instagram. Chris, we've had the pleasure of knowing each other, at least on my end, for the last several years. We've worked together a couple of times on some shows, and but for listeners that don't know you, who is Chris Graves?
Chris Graves is kind of more of a brand, I guess, really than a person. Graves isn't my real last name, and we're gonna talk about that later. I believe, anyway, we're going to talk about that later. But yeah, Chris Graves is kind of a brand to essentially get my music into a more accessible place. So the problem that I was running into before was with my real last name is extremely difficult for people to figure out based on the sound of the word. It's Huisenga, and then the spelling of Huisenga is tough to figure out and tough to remember. And so I wanted to create kind of Chris Graves as a brand or a musical like persona to carry the music that I already have, and to also kind of give me an avenue or like a little bit more freedom of creation in terms of what I can create. You know, like when you're I think when you're writing from a self standpoint, it's great because it's honest, but it can also be kind of limiting. And I think at where I'm at in my songwriting like journey is that I still value honesty like above pretty much everything else, but I do like to write from different perspectives sometimes, you know. And so having Chris Graves as a brand is nice to be able to do that, so that when I write a song that maybe doesn't necessarily say or sound like me for the people that have known me for a while, it's, you know, that song has a place to live within the brand.
That's a really cool take on that. And beyond just the, you know, me being a marketer, Chris, I didn't even try your last name. I didn't even try. So the fact that you went, hey man, this is really tough to, I mean, even just to get gigs, they're like, hey, we're going to call that Chris guy, and can't really, and it just gets messed up all the time. I mean, my name's super easy phonetically, right? It starts STARTZ, and people mess it up all the time. They skip the T, or they skip, you know, it always gets messed up, right? So even when you make it as easy as possible, they're still going to mess it up. So when you have a name that's as challenging phonetically as Huisenga is, I knew that you were good friends with our mutual friend, Devin, who also has a challenging last name, although a little more phonetically pleasing, Santa Stephen, but he goes by Devin Sants. So both of you are kind of going by monikers, and while both of them probably have roots in that, hey, let's make this a little easier to sell, I didn't even think about the extra persona that it kind of gives you to write from too. That's a really cool perspective that you have now, and a freedom, really, because I, as a songwriter, write from a very personal place, and I don't feel sometimes that I have that freedom because it doesn't sound like me. And even though I know some of the songs that I've written aren't for me necessarily to sing, it's still kind of hard for me to write from that place of not I.
Right. Well, yeah, and I think as a songwriter too, I think that oftentimes it's very easy to, like, I've experienced this where I've been creating a song and I'm writing from a different place, whether it be, like, I used to do co-writes with a good friend of mine named Richard Gruer, who's an amazing songwriter. And we would do, for our co-writes, we would go in with the sole purpose of writing a song for like X artist. We wanted to co-write and be like, we should write a song for this person. You know, whether that was a local person or whether it was like, we're writing a song for Taylor Swift today, you know? So like, it was really fun as an exercise to kind of get out of your head and gain that freedom of being like, well, I can say anything, because it's not me who's supposed to be singing it in the first place. But there's a duality there, because as you're creating that other voice, well, then it's like, well, you know, I want to be able to use it too. Like as a performing singer-songwriter, I want to be able to play the things that I'm creating, because otherwise it kind of feels like you're just creating something. It feels like you're spinning your wheels a little bit sometimes. Like you're creating something cool, but it's not something that you can use, or you know, it might just end up sitting there. So I needed to like bridge the gap of like, oh, okay, well, I can create in these different voices, and I enjoy doing that every once in a while to get out of my own head. But I still want to be able to use those things, or else it feels like a waste of time in a way. And it's not, because you're creating, obviously. It's not a waste of time ever when you're creating stuff. But, you know, you want to be able to use it and to put it in front of people if you feel like it's a really good song. And so that was kind of how I arrived at, I was like, well, what if we, you know, change the name a little bit and allow it to be more fluid and not just be tied to who I am as a person.
Right. And especially when you are you're where you grew up. You're from Rapid City originally, Chris?
Sturgis, yeah, but I mean, just the Black Hills that's
right, and it's all small. It's a pretty small area when you get down to it, right? So people know you, and I think it's really cool to be able to go, well, this is a part of me, right? This isn't all of me, but I can be a lot of things underneath this, and to put on a different face and a different voice. And yeah, that's a really cool aspect, and a great training exercise, I think, that you were doing and writing from all those different voices, even if it wasn't something necessarily that you could use in a marketable, you know, as a product, right? Still a good training exercise. Like you say, it's never bad to be practicing creating. And in some way, that's what we're doing right now, Chris. I mean, we worked for an hour behind the scenes, a little BTS for you guys here. We've been on the phone for over an hour already trying to figure out this stuff to get a podcast going, right?
Yeah.
So it's not, you know, it's not all as rosy as it seems. And it's all just learning for the future anyway. This podcast is not even a thought really in the grand scope of things, right? We've had, you know, 6 or 7 episodes already under the belt, but it's just me on the phone with my friends, the people that I enjoy spending time talking to. And, you know, we're getting on the phone and talking about shows and different things that we're doing and just catching up occasionally. So how fun now to have a platform to kind of bring that and have some really deep conversations like the one we're having today. So really, really cool of you to jump on with us and kind of share yeah, right off the hilt, so some really cool stuff, man. So how did you land on the name Graves?
Well, I stole it from Luke Graves. No.
How serendipitous, his episode just aired today.
No, we were talking about that before this episode, and I figured I had to at least make the joke, because when I changed it, of course, Luke liked the post that showed up when I changed my name to it, and so I was like, I didn't even consider Luke in this whole situation. So sorry, Luke, took your name. But actually, the way that I arrived at Chris Graves was, I had been thinking about changing, or just getting a more accessible last name on my music for like 4 years prior to actually doing it. Because like my whole life has been like, how do you spell that?
Right.
Or like Chris.
Yeah, I can't even imagine it. It's not a new problem that you are facing.
Yeah, it's been for literally my whole existence. So I was thinking about it, and I ran through a couple of different iterations of names that I liked and that were easy, and I started digging back through like my family tree. And so my my dad's mom, her last name, or I'm sorry, my dad's mom's mom last name was Graves. So,
Oh, so you
and
guys, you may be the illegitimate cousins.
it's a family name. Yeah. So and as a matter of fact, it's the only family name that wasn't like that difficult
Yeah.
for. So like yeah.
And you had to
So
go
it's
back,
like
what'd you say, 3 generations?
yeah. So well, I didn't exactly look like super duper hard, but like so
Yeah.
on my mom's side it's Donahue,
I mean, you're trying to
which
stay close to the tree, man.
yeah, yeah, I mean, I don't want to get like super duper far back because, but like, yeah, so it's on my mom's side, it's Donahue, but it's spelled Donohue. So that's out because there's like four different ways to spell Donahue. So I definitely considered going with that one, but I was like, well, it's too tough still. And then further beyond that is Tybo, which is spelled Thybo.
It
So I
just
was just
keeps
like,
getting
dude,
better.
this is like,
Huisenga was the easiest one.
yeah. So it's like I'm digging through these family names trying to find one that's easy,
Oh my
and
goodness.
yeah, on both sides of the family, it was not easy to find one. So I ended up on Graves because that was like the easiest
Oh,
thing.
oh man, that's great. That's great, man. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, the struggles, right? I didn't know this was going to turn into a marketing branding episode, but guys, the struggle is real for musicians out here. We're just trying to survive and stay relevant and the things we go through. I'll even change my name.
You sometimes you gotta, you know. I did a lot of research into it too. My mom was like, "Don't change your name," and there was one or two other people who knew how to say the name that were like, "Don't change it," and it was like, well, okay. So there's for every person at a gig that comes up to me and asks me for a business card or asks me to like find myself on their Spotify so they can listen to it. For every one person that does that, there's probably three or four other people, like not to sound full of myself because of like sometimes you play gigs that don't go amazingly, but for every one person that comes up and asks, there's probably like three or four other people in the crowd that liked your music enough that they would listen, but they just didn't want to come and ask. Like
Right.
there's that whole extra step of effort, and I was like, I need to delete that step because like especially in the world of today, people don't want to have to put effort and they don't need
Man,
to. Like
stuff like
Spotify
the
just keeps feeding it to you.
right.
Just
Yep.
music.
Well, and marketing
And
is
so
huge, man. I mean, the little QR codes on, on our marketing materials at shows, I put them right on the tables, bud. I put it right here is my music. Please go check us out. Please give me your email address. I'll go talk to everybody in the building. Like I almost spend more time talking to people and marketing the band and meeting people and getting email addresses than I do actually playing music, right? Because it's in some ways it's more important. It's really easy for me to deliver on the music side of things. We've been doing this a long time, Chris.
yep.
I'm not a young man in the game anymore. I'm pretty confident when I go into a show that we're going to do what we came to do. Quitting drinking and partying at shows and things has a lot to do with that. I'm there to do a job. I know the set list that I bring to the table is going to work in the majority of places. You might not have the greatest crowds everywhere, but I know everybody there is going to have good things to say about what they saw. Obviously you're going to have more energy at this show or that show. Those are just things that we deal with as well. Until you build that in on your own, right? And you're selling out these places, and that's what we're really trying to build. That's kind of a lot about what the show is the marketing, helping people come out of their shell. You know, there's a few of us that do it really well and are very active and are out there working, and then there's a lot of talented people that aren't as much, and we're trying to, as much as you know, we are doing it for ourselves, we're trying to lead by example as well. People are watching. I say all the time, nobody's listening, nobody's watching, but they are. Everybody's watching. They see us. They see what we're doing, and it's very important that we set a standard, and to keep doing what we're doing, and to be marketable, and to talk about those things too. It's huge to even just have this little conversation about you changing your name. For all you kids out there, if you got a really hard last name and it's just been, unless you're going to make it your thing, which I did, right? I leaned into it and said, no, starts with a Z. Well, and then I'm going to make it and ends with a Z as well. We're going to lean into that. That's my family's way of doing it, right? That's, it's easy enough. It's a little bit of misspelling, but, you know, take some advice, and if you're not making it as easy as possible for people to find you, they're not going to find you. Because even if it is as easy as possible, they're still not going to be really looking for you either. So when they do go to look, and then it's too many barriers, man. It's too much to break through.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I wanted to make it so that, like, I say my name on the microphone and people hear it and they're like, "Oh, okay." And then they can Google it
They can see
or
it.
search it and it's there. You
Right.
know, like I want to do my best to, because it's not that I don't enjoy having conversations with people at gigs and stuff, like when I'm performing or just out and about. Like, I love talking to people and getting different perspectives. But it does, like, there's a lot of people out there that don't necessarily enjoy that, you know, like there's some people that don't necessarily want to be approached by other people when they're out. They just want to kind of hang out and, like,
Oh, bro, I make people
and
uncomfortable all the time.
and be there. Yeah. And, like, I wanted to make it so that it was like I don't even have to do that.
Yeah.
Because I'm definitely one of those people, like when you were saying that there's a lot of people that are really good at you know, going out there and, like, really self-promoting. Like, Devin is killer at that. You're amazing at that. I am a gigantic slacker on that. So I was like, I want to make this as easy as possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Say my name on the microphone and they hear it and they can find it.
Well,
just,
and how
just
many,
like that,
like,
you know?
break it down. How many hours of your life have you spent explaining your last name? You know what I mean? Like, hours that you're never going to get back, where, like, you don't ever have to do that at shows anymore. You don't ever have to do that.
Yeah.
Except to people.
Nope.
I mean, I'm assuming when you first did it that you had your friends and things, but yeah, it's just really, it's really interesting. It's really interesting, and it's nice to know that you're conscious of it, right? And to be moving on, and it's funny how a thing like changing your name can almost be more important than the music, right?
Oh,
but
yeah.
the music is just as important too, and we should probably talk about some of that. One thing we also talked about, it's kind of an artist thing as well, is you were talking about having a propensity for starting a lot of things, but not necessarily having some follow through with that. Can you kind of address, like, what, as an artist, that like, you know, you have to create, right? So that you're in this, like, okay, I have to create new stuff, but then having the wherewithal still to kind of, like, drag these things across the finish line still.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, and I don't want to use the word problem because it's not a problem necessarily, but so, like, my issue is that I enjoy the creating part so much that I struggle with the, like, getting all the way to, like, release part. So, like, the creating part, writing the song itself, I enjoy so much that, like, I do that and I complete the song, and then you know, I play it out at gigs and fine tune it. Some songs are, like, it takes them years to get fully fine tuned, but some songs are, like, when I write them, boom, they're like in their final form already. But I enjoy that so much that I struggle to go into the studio and record something that is already written, because it's like, well, even when I'm just like checking or like dialing in like guitar tone or like noodling around on one of the guitars that I have on the wall in the studio, I end up like coming up with some little riff, and then it's like, oh, now I got to chase that. And so like it's constantly all like too many new ideas coming in, which is an amazing problem to have. I feel so grateful to have a healthy like wellspring of creativity. But when it gets to the point of recording and production, and then on the back end of that, like there's promo involved with once the production's done,
The real work.
then that's the actual work that like I don't
the not
always
fun
enjoy.
stuff.
I don't always enjoy doing it so much. Yeah, like there's some projects that like I'm working on a song right now. Funny to say, I'm working on 80 songs right now, but one of the song ideas that I'm working on right now is like a total joke song. It's called Businessman, and it's like this very like, it needs to just be like, it's grungy like funk basically, and the lines in it are like, yeah, exact grunk. That sounds almost like something completely different.
That's why I like it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe that's what it needs to be. But yeah, it's like the lines in it are like, I'm a businessman with a business plan, got a P.O. box in business land. Like it's a total joke song.
I already like
it. Yeah, as I'm creating it though, like I'm seeing bits of like video in my head. Like I'm seeing like these little, essentially a music video that goes along with it. So that's like, it's ideas like that I actually need to be chasing, because those are complete ideas. They're coming with content creation in my head as I'm like, receiving and translating them. So like that's the hard part, is the back end of it, of, oh, now you've got this beautiful song, and now you've got to go in and record it and play the guitar part.
Brother, I am the same way.
Yeah, and then you got to go make videos for it and release a video
that I don't mind. I don't mind being in front of the camera,
day.
But I can't do the selfie cameras, and I'm really bad about that stuff. I have my truck set up now to where I'll do some lives from the truck because it's set up, but like I'm not going to sit there looking into myself, and I don't really have that necessarily. But my songwriting a lot the same. I got a huge catalog of songs that I'm slowly trickling out into the world now, right? Because I'm the same way. It's difficult for me. I've learned how to do a lot of other stuff in the music business, and it took me a long time to learn all that. Once I start sitting down and I realize that what I capture at home isn't quite up to the quality that I want to use, that's where it kind of drives me to working with people and working with producers and engineers that I trust. And that's very fortunate in our group of friends to have a couple of them. Matt Beener has been on the podcast now. Tom Freer is obviously,
fantastic.
And
yep.
he's done all my, and Tom Freer has done all my stuff, right? So I'm
yep.
I'm going to be working with both of these guys, right? Because we're all friends, and that's the beauty of what it's doing. Do you feel like you could benefit from working with a producer that could maybe direct you maybe a little bit more, rather than just someone that's a recording engineer where you're supposed to come in with more of the idea and, the meters running and such?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely can be helpful. And like working with, I haven't gotten to work with Matt yet, but of course I've done some work with Tom, and I love working with Tom because it's we get to like experiment a lot.
It's very organic.
Yeah. When we're working with Tom, it's definitely a lot of like, well, let's try this and try that. And you end up having something that is, it just sounds very like unique. And Tom definitely has like a characteristic sound sensibility, and I like that. Like working with him, the workflow is good. I think working with a producer, I've had nothing but good results. Like the last 3 songs that I released. So that would be Heart Shaped Box, Homecoming Comets, and We Are, which are still on the Chris Huisenga Spotify if you want to listen to those. those three songs I worked with Jay Hall down in Franklin, Tennessee, just outside of Nashville. And he is an amazing producer. Like, the guy just, like, he has all of his ideas that pop into his head are like excellent ideas, and they execute stuff so quickly down there. Like, their workflow is like turbo speed. Like, it's just incredible how quickly things get done. So, like, it's definitely very helpful to work with a producer in terms of offering different ideas, and productivity wise, like, they're just going to be more productive than like self-recording. That's just the fact of the matter, because, you know, having another person there to like hit record, and you can just be like, do it again, and then they hit the button, so you don't have to turn to your computer and, you know, cut it out or do whatever. It's really, really helpful. But what I will say is that, like, I feel like it's, for me as a creative person, for one, I think it's stressful to have the meter going. I don't necessarily enjoy the feeling of like, oh, well, we got to get a good take in the next 20 minutes because we need to move on to drums, or we need to move forward to this thing or that thing or whatever. Like, I don't understand how people wrote albums in the studio when they knew that it was, I guess, what if they had the record company,
The
was like
labels were
for
paying
it.
the bills, buddy.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
how
but
these great albums were made, because the meter
yeah,
wasn't running. I mean, it was to them,
right,
but not to the artists themselves. They didn't deal with any of that business stuff. And that's actually
yeah,
a big thing. Yeah, you know what? And I had a phone conversation with Ruthie Kraft today, who
yeah. I love
I
Ruthie.
know, right. I saw you guys play together at the Deadwood Tobacco Company the last time we were out in the hills. And yeah, she's down in Austin, right? And she's doing it, full-time musician, and I'm listening to her catalog today, and like
Killer or
what I'm
killer.
hearing
Yeah,
on her, yeah, what I'm hearing on her Spotify is like totally different stuff than what I was seeing live, right? And because the production, and obviously she's collabing with some very, very, you know, talented people on her end as well, right? That it's like, wow, yeah, the depth of some of these artists, and the depth that you have to have as an artist these days, both musically and as just a brand, a story, a something, right? But yeah, I encourage any of our listeners that don't know who Ruthie Kraft is, that you go look her up. She's going to be coming through on some shows this summer. So a little teaser there.
yeah.
Chris,
She's killing it, man.
yeah,
She's
well,
love
and
love
you guys
love
have,
her as a person
right, and
too.
you guys have met through another mutual friend of ours, whose name has already come up in this conversation, but we can't let you escape the podcast without talking about the bromance that is Chris Graves and Devin Sants.
The bromance that is Chris Graves and Devin Sants. Yeah, we do love Devin. We do love Devin in the Chris Graves house. That's for sure. This it's you know Devin and I have known each other for, oh man, it's getting up there now. I guess it's been maybe like 6 or 7 years or something like that. So Devin and I met actually under really weird circumstances. Well, we met at an open mic originally, but Devin really like became my friend a little bit after that. But no, we've just shared, like, we've shared so many gigs over the years, and
Hey,
um,
hey,
uh,
hey, hey, don't skip over the weird circumstances, buddy. That's what we're here for. We want to hear the
oh,
origin story. Come
the
on
weird
now. Don't be
circumstances.
burying the lead here.
All right, so we met at an open mic, and we really became friends like a little bit down the line. I couldn't give you like a timeline, but it was probably within a year or two from when we originally met, maybe even like 6 months. But I was at a bar in Sturgis for it was after one of my friends' funerals, and I was at the bar just like trashed, so wasted, like crying at the bar because, you know, like, my buddy just died. He died of a heart attack at 24.
That's just crazy.
And yeah, it is incredible because I was also 24 at the time, and so, or I was 25, I guess. So like it was just out of nowhere, totally. And Devin just happened to like show up at the bar. I don't know if he was getting food or whatever. I don't really remember that day very well, but he just like showed up and saw me sitting there crying and was just kind of like there for me and was just being a great a great Devin Stance caretaker. You know, like if you know Devin, you know like he cares about people so much.
Yes, he
And
does.
so we kind of exchanged. I think we exchanged numbers, and we were like, yeah, let's co-write sometime. And he and I still have not co-written a song. It's incredible. But we've just shared like from there, you know, like Devin kind of just became a good friend, and he was playing a lot of open mics and stuff, and I had already had kind of an established gig base at that point. So I was like, you know, Devin, you should come and play some gigs with me. And he was playing gigs too. I'm not going to take credit and like I made Devin Stance a performing musician because that's not true. He was playing some gigs here and there too. But I was like, you know, let's split some sets.
Well, there was an
And that,
opportunity there.
yeah, I mean, well, and there's like I didn't have 3 hours of music, and bars wanted
Right.
3 hour gigs,
Yeah.
and so it was like, you know, Devin, let's split some set bills, and we just kind of like kept doing that. And there was another buddy, there was a trifecta of bromance for a long time there with a good buddy named TJ Ellis, who's an amazing songwriter and an incredible vocalist, like makes me sound like Fran Drescher. But he's out in Roanoke now, but maybe one day you'll get to meet him, or I'll put you in contact with him. So TJ, it was me and TJ and Devin splitting gigs, and then when TJ moved, it was like, well, you know, all right, Devin, we're gonna be splitting all the gigs now. So we you know we've played a lot of different places and traveled together and played a lot of gigs and just are really really close friends. And that's kind of, I guess that's the whole story. We're just really really supportive of each other. I
Yeah,
think that
and
that
and
helps a lot.
and you're always pumping each other up, right? And that's why I love working with both of you guys, and I always want to work with you as a pair, because I like both you guys. You're my buddies, and I think you really bring the best out of each other when you're out there too, right? It's so wild that for all these years, and because of the fact that you had built this career off of like, well, yeah, but like when he's playing, I don't play. That's my break time. Um,
Yeah.
that you've never written or played anything together.
We, you know, we've been, Devin's been pushing really hard on it, and because he has an idea called Gravestone Carvers, and he, like Tom thought that I changed my name to Chris Graves to be in support of the Gravestone Carvers, and it was
For
just
that reason.
yeah, it was actually just a huge coincidence. But so yeah, Devin has the idea for Gravestone Carvers, this kind of like horror folk kind of
That's
thing.
right up his
And
alley.
so yeah, and so like it's definitely a more Devin centric idea, but I'm happy to like be there. But I mean, we did have
That's
Devin.
another one of those voices that you get to portray, another
Right,
persona, right?
a different way of thinking and writing. And we did have Devin join my band for a while when the band still existed. It was called Lucy Moon, and Devin came in and was playing acoustic guitars for the last like year that the band was a thing. So, and we incorporated some of his songs and put some of his covers. This later this week, I'll be recording a guitar parts for a cover of Bad Guy by Billie Eilish that Devin
Nice.
is going to release, but it'll be featuring the old band on there. And it's like, that's one of my favorite songs to play.
Yeah.
So definitely it's always fun to work with him. We have such a hard time nailing down the co-write the co-write session.
The
And
time.
that is not, yeah, and that's not an exclusive problem to just me and Devin. Like that is like people in the Black Hills I've noticed are just very, I don't know if we're like timid or like too modest or what, but like getting a co-write session with anybody in the Black Hills is extremely difficult because people have been writing by themselves for so long. And I think some of the people are afraid to share that process with other people, even though that they know that like both of us are seasoned writers, like both of us have written plenty of stuff before. It's really strange to see like this such a closed songwriting community that is simultaneously so healthy. Like there's so many great
Right. Everyone's
creative
supporting each
songwriters.
other, but there's not a ton of collaboration
There's
between the
like,
acts and between songwriters as well. There's so many great songwriters. I mean, look at the Wild West Songwriters Fest. And I'm
yeah,
literally going down the whole lineup and I just missed the cut for the regional songwriters competition that they'd done, right? And like there's part of me, obviously there's a selfish part of me that's like, God damn, like I deserve to be there. And then I'm looking at the list and they're all my friends and it's like, well, there's not one person on there that I'd want to take their spot. There's not one
right.
person on that list. So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not going to be disappointed about that at all. That's a sign of a healthy scene. And I think what you're talking about is because we've never really seen it done. We know the words, you know what I mean? The words make sense, but most people haven't seen it. I've never had a writing session with someone, right? I've brought my ideas to some other people and, a few things like that, but I've never gone into a building, into a room with that intention. We're going to write a song today, right? Or we're going to write and we're going to let the ideas flow, right? And we're going to hang
Yeah.
out and we're going to jam. And I think that's something that people don't jam really anymore. So we're trying to kind of bring that back with our open mic night right now. We're just kind of getting it off the ground here in Mitchell at Dr. Lucky's. But I think nights like that are very, very important to a scene as a whole because it starts to get that collaborative juices flowing. Hey, I'm sharing this, man. I just wrote this yesterday. What do you guys think about it? And when you start asking for that feedback and when you start talking about your process on podcasts and, like what we're doing is literally helping us to facilitate more of the things that we want to do. So
Yeah.
I think it's coming around. I think you're right. That's where things are at right now, but we can also be the ones that change that. There's really nobody, there's nobody older than me that's going to do it for me at this point in my career, right? Like I am the guy that should be doing it. That's why I'm doing it. There, the people that are a generation or older than me are, very invested in whatever career they may be. They're less than 10 years from retirement. They're, like they're at a different place in their life. This season of my life is my season to work. And that's why I really, dove into, hey, this momentum that we're feeling right now, all the podcasts kind of just coming out of nowhere and being a thing, pay attention to that. The universe is speaking, listen and pay attention and just keep trying to do the things that I think we all know need to happen. Instead of being like, oh, somebody should do that, just go do that. I think
Yeah.
I was like, oh, we need this. Oh, well, nobody else is going to do it. So we need an open mic night here. Cool. Let's go do it. We need songwriter
Yep.
nights here.
That's
Okay.
you.
That's what we're going to do. Well, and it's not just me. I think what I'm hoping to do by getting out and doing it is to show people how easy it is, right? If you can go in and you can be confident with some of these bar owners, these people would love to support some things like this in little towns all across the state. But you got to have a little bit of confidence and you got to be confident that you're going to show people a good time, right? That you're going to bring people into the bar and make it work. I come in as a businessman to these establishments going, hey, it might take
You're
a
gonna
little
sell
time to
beers?
build. Yeah, it might take a little time to build this too. The open mic, it's not going to be something overnight. You're not hiring Kiss to play one night only. It's a different thing. It's going to take maybe 2 or 3 months to even just get a regular base of people that are showing up. You're going to have peaks and valleys in that time. You're going to have some really good nights, but over the course of a year, you're going to pay some dues, and you being there every single week in the same spot doing the same thing, that builds equity, and you keep putting that equity in. It's just like a bank account. It keeps growing and it keeps growing and it keeps growing. And eventually you get to cash in on stuff like doing a big block party, and having 1,000 people on and growing these things. Everyone wants to do the big things and it be a big thing right away. A redwood doesn't become a redwood overnight, right? It takes time to grow all of these things, and that's in every single thing that you do. That's what we're growing right now, having a conversation about just music and all the challenges that come with just being an artist. Chris, we haven't even talked about all the challenges that I face on the booking and promoting side.
Oh man,
So,
yeah,
and the challenges that you
nightmare.
face as well, and booking around, we're talking about Devin, and Devin's a new father now, right? Now you're kind of trying to play your not bandmate, but your partner, right, has a lot less time on his hands and maybe doesn't want to do as much, right? So that's inevitably going to affect you as well. Can you talk about kind of what what effect, if any, it's kind of had on your career to kind of lose that that kind of right leg that you've been standing on and with right beside for 6-7 years, right, is now all of a sudden not there? Are you playing less then and comfortable with that, or do you want to go out and play more and maintain that same schedule? Like, just kind of touch on a few things in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in terms of the like Graves and Sants like connection, there's there it's kind of it's a different dynamic, just because like, so we do gigs and split the time in a way that the music doesn't stop, where we both get longer breaks, but there's still continuous music, and then we play songs together and stuff. But in terms of like Devin, starting a family and kind of, he wants to be playing as much as he's ever wanted to play, for sure. But that's just not necessarily an option. Like, you got a newborn baby, you can play as much as you want to play, or you can be a good dad. Choose one. So like for me and in my career, like what that means for me is that it just pushes me to to create some more stuff, to create some more hopefully great songs, and maybe pick up a couple covers here and there, because I've never really been much of a cover guy, and it doesn't hurt to have a handful in there, even though I do have the reputation of like, yeah, he plays original songs. So like, I guess what I'm getting around to is that it's kind of a season of growth, I guess, when you're used to having these gigs be shorter. Now I don't have that, so like it's time to step up and play these 3-hour gigs solo and get better. It's really just all things that are pointing towards getting better and improving as a musician,
Right.
and as a performer. That's like that you need to have more vocal longevity, which I've been doing, definitely helping, or quitting smoking and drinking and doing drugs, and
That makes a huge difference, doesn't it?
Oh man, it's night and day. And it's changed my voice too. Like, I don't have the smoky blues voice anymore, which is kind of a bummer. But
it is kind of a bummer.
my voice is more precise and stronger and healthier than ever now. So now, where I couldn't sing more pop stuff before, now I can, and it sounds good. So like, it's really just it's not a bad change. It's just a pivot in terms of like pushing me to be better, and I'm not always good about pushing myself to be better. So sometimes you need those extraneous circumstances to just come up and grab you and just be like, hey, guess what, now you're doing this.
So,
And
so
I love
even,
that.
yeah, even kind of by walking away in essence, right? Not truly walking away, but in Devin taking a break, he's almost supporting you in becoming the best version of yourself, even in that moment too, right?
Yeah, I mean, certainly like making the process happen faster, and that's something that I was working towards. Progress can be slow sometimes, and so like this is a perfect opportunity for me to like really surge forward and fully invest in that progress, and play those 3-hour gigs and get that more of that stamina and more refined, and like start practicing. Like I've been practicing singing actually lately, which has been really refreshing. Like I've never been a singing practice guy. I've always just like my practice has been songwriting and singing what the song is. But now it's like, okay, I'm going to practice some scales and do that on guitar too, like practice the guitar and sing the runs that I'm playing on the guitar, sing along with them. So like it's given me a ton of opportunities to be better and get to the point of being the level of musician that I probably should be after doing this for 15 years anyway.
Yeah, brother, I've had
So
those moments, especially when I watch kids like Bodie Lindy play guitar, and I was like, I should have just put this shit down 20 years ago.
yeah, or be practicing for 10 hours a day. Like yeah, I mean, it's been good. And I'm happy for Devin too. I think that's like, if anybody that knows Devin knows that he's like always really, really wanted to be a dad.
Oh
Like he's
man, and he's
just
such a
kind of
great
he's
dad.
yeah,
So,
he's made to be a dad. So
and
like I'm
yeah,
happy that he gets to do that.
you were there as well, but I don't know if it was Beckett's first show, but it was his first show in the Saloon number 10, I'm pretty sure. And me and his dad got
Oh
to
yeah.
play with Clayton Ryan, who's going to be a big, big star real soon. And we got to play that show with him in attendance there. And I know you were there that day. And that Wild West Songwriters Fest weekend for me just meant so much to reminding me what I'm here to do, man. I love all you guys. I love where you're growing and changing, and um, things are growing for everybody right now, right? I think we are in a season and a period of growth, not just as a scene locally or regionally, but as a human species, right? I think there's a lot of change in the air. I think this summer is going to be amazing for a lot of reasons. I got some really cool stuff on the schedule this year. Really looking forward to. You got any? I know you're coming. You're coming my way. Unfortunately, I'll be elsewhere. I'll be out in Okoboji for the Midwest Country Music Organization awards show next weekend. But you're coming out to Yankton and Mitchell next weekend. Can you talk about those few shows? You've been out here before now.
I have, yeah. So we're playing Stringers on April 26th in Yankton. That's a fun room. I really like that room. Super duper chill, like bar kind of gig. But I mean, we had a great turnout last time we were there, and I'm thinking we'll probably get more of the same.
Yeah. Well,
And
your
that's
cousin just played there a couple weeks ago, so.
who's that? Oh, Luke. Yeah, I like that room just because it's a really good balance, right? Like last time we were there, we had like a handful of tables that were listening and a handful of tables that were just kind of that were there, And I always like gigs like that because you get a good mixed reception. And like what I mean is like you get to test songs that if like let's say for example you have a song that you think is great and you have 3 tables that are like they're listening, they're there for the music, and you have 4 tables that are just there for like the beers. You can test that song that you think is great, and if you get one or all 4 of those tables that are just there for beers to look and like listen, if you catch their ear with that, then you know that you're doing something right. So like I always enjoy gigs like that because that's where you are, you're always fine tuning your performance and honing your skills, but those are such a great opportunity to to do that and to see like where you're at. It's like real time statistics, like, and
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah, it's so fun, man. Well, we're really looking forward to having you. And then April 27th, you're taking part rather in our Gentleman Writers Songwriters round at Dr. Lucky's.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to you guys checking out this room. This is where we've been hosting our open mics at. It really is. We've been calling it. It's got a vibe, man. I think we're going to call it the Vibe Clinic. I'm putting it out there now.
Vibe Clinic.
At Dr. Lucky's, man. Yeah. It's just, there's something about this room, man. And you're going to see when you get there, and we're going to throw some big parties in this place. And we're really looking forward to just you and Chris kind of being some of the first ones, us having in there. It means a lot to me. All the support that we've gotten from you, as a company, my wife and I, and you always supporting my wild ideas. You and Devin have been one of our biggest supporters. So we'll continue to keep pumping you guys up and supporting you too. So yeah, thank you so much, for joining me for a long conversation today. We kind of went a little bit everywhere, but I think there's value in, musicians just kind of talking about our lives and the struggles we go through, and the wins that we get to celebrate too. We all get to do a really fun job, man, getting to go play music and getting to entertain people and to work with the people that we get to, like yourself, like Devin Sance, like Clayton Ryan. It's really a joy to watch all of your friends winning as well. So we're looking forward to hearing some of your new music, Chris. Go finish some songs, get some recordings done, and we want to hear them, and we want to hear them and see you live. So anything you want to plug before we jump off?
Yeah. So for one, just wanted to say I am super stoked for that writers round. I'm really excited to hear. I know Devin's got some new songs. I'm really, really excited to hear what Sam's got going on as well. Get a taste of some different music.
His song today put me to tears, Chris.
Yeah, you were telling me that. I'm really, really excited to hear what he has in the chamber for us.
Spoiler, you can tune in next week to the show and hear it on Love Noise.
Oh, perfect. I'll do it while I'm driving there.
There you go.
Just fine.
That will work out beautifully.
And I think last thing was just that I'm going to be releasing a single in July. It's called Lemonade, and it's one of my favorite songs that I've written recently. Devin has chosen the time for me to release it because I have no self-discipline. So keep an eye out on Chris Graves' Spotify, and follow me on Instagram at I am Chris Graves, and I think that's what my Facebook is too now. So yeah, just follow me there and keep an eye out for Lemonade coming out in July, baby.
Nice, man. I'm stoked. I can't wait to hear it then. And I think we're gonna be working on some other shows this year too. So I appreciate your time, Chris. Once again, everybody can go check him out on Spotify. Follow him on Instagram. I am Chris Graves. And thanks for tuning in to another episode of The Scene. You've been listening to The Scene. Follow along on all your social media channels and go to patreon.com/thescenesd and make yourself part of The Scene.